Introduction: The Great Deception. Welcome. You are here because you want to understand wealth, not the Instagram version of wealth, not the flashy car leased at 15% interest version of wealth. You want the truth. We are going to dive deep into The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley and William Danko. This isn't just a book, it is an autopsy of the American dream. The authors didn't just guess how rich people did it, they spent 20 years interviewing them. They walked into their living rooms, looked at their tax returns, and asked them what kind of beer they drank. And what they found shocked them. Let me ask you a question. When you close your eyes and picture a millionaire, what do you see? Do you see a 25-year-old tech founder in a Manhattan penthouse? Do you see an NBA player with a diamond chain? Do you see a lawyer driving a brand new BMW 7 Series? If that is what you see, you are looking at high income, not high net worth. And there is a massive difference. The authors call this big hat, no cattle. It's a Texan phrase. It means you look the part. You've got the cowboy hat, the boots, the swagger, but you don't actually own any cows. You have no assets. The premise of this book is simple but terrifying. The people you think are rich are usually just high-earning spenders. The people who are actually rich look boring. The millionaire next door is a 57-year-old guy named Aggressive Saver. He's married with 3 kids. He drives a Ford F-150. He lives in a house that costs $300,000, even though he could afford one that costs $1 million. He owns a pest control company or a dry cleaner. He wears a watch he bought at Target. Why does this matter to you? Because for years you have been trying to emulate the wrong people. You've been trying to keep up with the Joneses, not realizing that the Joneses are actually broke. The Joneses are drowning in debt to look like they have money. In this hour-long summary, we aren't just skimming the surface. We are going to break down the 7 common denominators that these wealthy people share. We are going to look at the math, the psychology, and the raw discipline required to join their ranks. So put aside everything you think you know about being rich. Forget the private jets. Let's talk about budgeting, used cars, and the beautiful power of compounding interest. Chapter 1, Meet the Millionaire Next Door. Let's get into the data. Who are these people really? When Stanley and Danko started their research, they did something interesting. They requested interviews with people in upscale neighborhoods. They assumed that if you lived in a rich neighborhood, you were rich. They rented a fancy hotel ballroom. They bought expensive Bordeaux wine. They put out trays of gourmet pâté and caviar. They invited these rich people to come talk about their lifestyles. And do you know what happened? The people who showed up, the ones who were actually millionaires, didn't touch the wine. They didn't touch the caviar. They felt uncomfortable. One millionaire finally looked at the researchers and said, "Do you have any Budweiser and crackers?" That was the light bulb moment. The authors realized that luxury is for the people who want to look rich. Frugality is for the people who are rich. The portrait of a millionaire. Based on the book's data, here is the avatar of the typical American millionaire. He is a man, though this is shifting in modern times, the data skew male. He is about 57 years old. He is married and has stayed married to the same woman. Divorce is a wealth destroyer. His wife is even more frugal than he is. He is self-employed. He has lived in the same town for 20 years. But the most critical concept in Chapter 1 is the distinction between income and wealth. Income versus net worth. Imagine 2 people. Person A is a surgeon. He makes $400,000 a year. He drives a Porsche, lives in a $1.5 million house, sends his kids to private prep schools, belongs to the country club, and goes to Aruba twice a year. At the end of the year, after taxes and spending, he has $10,000 left over. Person B owns a small paving company. He makes $90,000 a year. He drives a 3-year-old truck, lives in a modest suburb, and invests 20% of his income every single month. Who is richer? Society says person A is rich because he has high income. The bank says person B is richer because he has high net worth. Wealth is what you accumulate, not what you spend. The authors introduce us to 2 acronyms that you need to memorize. 1, PAW, prodigious accumulator of wealth. This is the goal. These people have a net worth much higher than expected for their age and income. 2, UAW, under accumulator of wealth, these are the people who make a lot of money but have nothing to show for it. The wealth formula. How do you know if you are a PA or a UA? The book gives us a brutal, honest math formula. I want you to do this math in your head right now. Formula: multiply your age times your realized pre-tax annual household income. Divide that result by 10. This is what your net worth should be. Let's run an example. Say you are 30 years old and you make $100,000 a year. 30 times 100,000 is 3 million. Divide by 10. Your target net worth is 300,000. If you have 300,000 saved at age 30 earning 100K, you are average. To be a PO, prodigious accumulator, you need to be double that, around 600,000. To be a UAO under accumulator, you are at half that, around 150,000 or less. Most people listening to this are likely UAWs, and that's okay because now you know. The problem with UAWs is that they are on a treadmill. They have to keep working high-stress jobs to fuel their high-consumption lifestyle. The PW, however, has go-to-hell money. They can quit their job. They can weather a recession because their money works for them. The chapter concludes with a powerful comparison between a Mr. Bud, a PAW, and a Mr. Ford, a UAW. Mr. Ford throws parties, buys boats, and looks rich. Mr. Bud lives quietly. But when Mr. Ford loses his job, he is bankrupt in 3 months. Mr. Bud could live for 20 years without a paycheck. Which one do you want to be? Lessons learned from introduction. And Chapter 1, this section acts as a recap for the listener to take notes. 1. Stop judging wealth by appearances. The guy in the Ferrari is likely in debt. The guy in the Honda Civic might be a millionaire. You cannot see net worth, you can only see consumption. 2. Memorize the formula, age x income. 10. This is your scorecard. If you are behind, don't panic, but realize you need to change your strategy immediately. 3. Income is the shovel, wealth is the hole. A big shovel, high income, doesn't help if you throw the dirt right back in, high spending. You need to keep the dirt, save the money. 4. The status trap. Attempting to look wealthy is the #1 enemy of becoming wealthy, the Millionaire Next Door. The Deep Dive audio script, Part 2 of 6. Current running time, to 12 to 25 minutes. Focus, frugality, and resource allocation. Chapter 2, frugality, frugality, frugality. In the first part, we shattered the image of the millionaire as a champagne-sipping jet-setter. Now we have to talk about the dirty word of wealth building, the word that makes most people cringe, frugality. Chapter 2 is titled Frugality, Frugality, Frugality. The authors repeat it 3 times for a reason. It is the cornerstone. Let's use a sports analogy. In football, income is offense. It's how many points you put on the board. But spending is defense. Defense is how you stop the other team, expenses, from taking your points away. The authors found a shocking truth. Most millionaires are not the best offensive players in the league. They are the best defensive players. You can make $500,000 a year, a massive offense. But if your defense is terrible, if you spend $520,000 a year, you are losing the game. You are going backward. Conversely, if you make $80,000 but only spend $40,000, you are winning. The budgeting paradox. Here is a statistic from the book that confuses people. Millionaires budget more intensely than broke people. Wait, that doesn't make sense, right? If you have millions of dollars, why would you care about the price of milk? Why would you track your electric bill? You might think, I'll budget until I get rich, then I can stop. The Millionaire Next Door says, I budget so that I can stay rich. The authors interviewed 100 millionaires. They asked, do you know how much your family spends each year on food, clothing, and shelter? The majority said yes. Then they asked high-income non-millionaires, the UAWs, under-accumulators of wealth. They asked the same question. The answer was usually, I have no idea. The UAW feels that budgeting is beneath them. They think, I'm a doctor, I make $200,000. Why should I count pennies? And that arrogance is exactly why they have no net worth, the story of the suits. The book shares a great anecdote about clothes. They looked at the shopping habits of millionaires versus high-income non-millionaires. The average millionaire in the study had never paid more than $300 for a suit, $96. But the high-income UAWs, the lawyers who weren't actually rich yet, were routinely buying $1,000 suits. Why? Because the UAW is trying to signal success. They need the expensive suits so clients think they are successful. The actual millionaire doesn't care. He knows he's successful. He doesn't need the fabric on his body to prove it. The spouse factor. This is crucial. You cannot be a millionaire next door if your partner is a spendthrift. It is mathematically impossible. The authors found that in the vast majority of millionaire households, both the husband and the wife are frugal. If the husband is playing great defense, but the wife is playing terrible defense, or vice versa, the household net worth collapses. They call this financial domestic tranquility. The couple doesn't fight about money because they share the same goal: independence. They derive more pleasure from seeing their bank account grow than from buying a new couch. They ask themselves a simple question before every purchase. Does this purchase help me become financially independent, or does it push that goal further away? Chapter 3, Time, Energy, and Money. So we know they are frugal, but how do they behave? How do they spend their day? Chapter 3 is about allocation of resources. Time is money. We've all heard that, but the authors found a direct correlation between how much time you spend planning your finances and how rich you are. The planning gap. Let's look at the data. PLOs, the wealthy, spend nearly twice as much time per month planning their financial future compared to UAWs. They aren't day trading stocks. They are sitting down, looking at their budget, reviewing their investments, and strategizing their taxes. UAWs, the not-so-wealthy, spend almost zero time planning. Instead, they spend their time worrying. This is a profound psychological insight. The UAW lies awake at night stressed about money. They are anxious, but they don't do anything about it. The PLW doesn't worry. Why? Because they have a plan. They spend an hour on Tuesday night mapping it out, so they sleep like a baby on Wednesday. Dr. North versus Dr. South. The book introduces two real-life examples, Dr. North and Dr. South. Both are medical doctors. Both have similar education. Both make similar high incomes. Dr. North is a POW. He is neurotic about his money. He tracks everything. He drives an old car. He studies investment opportunities. Dr. South is a UAD. He feels he works hard and deserves to play hard. He buys a new car every 2 years. He joins the expensive country club because that's where the contacts are. Decades later, Dr. North is a multimillionaire. Dr. South still has to wake up every morning and perform surgery just to pay his bills. Dr. South claimed he didn't have time to budget. Dr. North made the time. Buying a car, the process. This chapter also highlights how they buy things. When a UAW buys a car, they are impulsive. They walk into a dealership, see a shiny car, fall in love with the leather seats, and sign a lease because the monthly payment fits. When a PAW buys a car, it is a military operation. They spend weeks researching. They read consumer reports. They look at depreciation tables to see which model holds value best. They haggle. They never pay the sticker price. The PO views a car purchase as a business transaction where the goal is to lose the least amount of money possible. The UA views it as an emotional high. The lesson here is about control. The millionaire next door controls his money, his time, and his desires. The average person is controlled by them. Lessons learned from chapters 2 and 3. Recap for the listener. 1. Defense wins championships. It doesn't matter how much you earn. If you spend it all, you are broke. Adopt a high defense mindset. 2. Budget. Like a CEO, stop viewing a budget as a restriction. View it as a business plan for your life. If you don't track it, you can't improve it. 3. Audit your time. How many hours last month did you spend specifically planning your financial future? If the answer is 0, you are likely a UAW. Schedule a money date with yourself or your spouse once a month. 4. Marry the right person. This is controversial but supported by data. If your spouse is a spender and refuses to change, building significant wealth will be incredibly difficult. You need to be on the same team. 5. Stop worrying, start planning. Anxiety is wasted energy. If you are stressed about money, sit down with a spreadsheet. Action cures fear. Here is part 3 of the deep dive summary. This section covers chapters 4 and 5. These two chapters are often cited as the most eye-opening because they deal with the two biggest wealth leaks: cars and children. The Millionaire Next Door, the deep dive. Chapter 4, You Aren't What You Drive. We've covered the mindset, the budgeting, and the planning. Now we have to talk about the physical objects that destroy wealth faster than anything else. We need to talk about your car. In America, and increasingly around the world, the car is the ultimate status symbol. It is how we tell strangers, I made it. If you pull up in a Mercedes, people assume you have money. If you pull up in a rusted Honda, people assume you don't. The Millionaire Next Door proves that this assumption is almost always backwards. The Status Artifact, Chapter 4, is dedicated to the automobile because cars are responsible for more UAWs, under-accumulators of wealth, than almost any other purchase. Wapkwama, depreciation. A car is not an asset, it is a liability that loses value every single day. Here is the killer statistic from the book. Most millionaires do not drive this year's model. In fact, only 23.5% of millionaires own a current year vehicle. The majority are driving cars that are 3, 5, or even 10 years old. The authors break down the math of the status hunter. Let's look at a typical high-income UAW. He gets a raise. He immediately trades in his perfectly good car for a leased Honda. He pays $800 a month forever. He owns nothing. He is renting prestige. The PAW, the wealthy person, looks at a car as a tool. It gets you from point A, to point the used strategy. Now, there is a myth that all millionaires drive 20-year-old beaters. That's not quite true. Many millionaires do buy new cars, but, and this is the key, they drive them into the ground. They buy a high-quality car, pay cash for it, and drive it for 10 years. They escape the cycle of constant payments. The authors tell the story of a millionaire named Mr. Allen. He was a wealthy entrepreneur. His employees wanted to give him a gift, so they pooled their regular money to buy him a Rolls-Royce. Mr. Allen refused the gift. Why? He said, I can't drive that. If I pull up to my factory in a Rolls-Royce, my workers will think I'm overpaying myself and underpaying them. If I pull up to my fishing cabin, the locals will scratch it. It doesn't fit my life. He understood that a hyper-luxury car wasn't a reward. It was a burden. It was a status artifact that signaled the wrong message. The millionaire next door is far more likely to be seen in a Ford F-150, a Jeep Grand Cherokee, or a Toyota Camry than a Ferrari. They prefer pounds of car for the money. They want reliability, not flash. Chapter 5, Economic Outpatient Care. Now we shift gears from cars to something even more emotional. Children. This chapter is controversial. It's called Economic Outpatient Care, or EOC. What is EOC? It is the cash, gifts, and subsidies that wealthy parents give to their adult children. The down payment on a house, the monthly check to cover the credit card bill, the loan that never gets paid back. Parents do this because they love their kids. They want to give them a head start. But the data found a devastating correlation. The more dollars an adult child receives, the fewer dollars they accumulate, the dampening of initiative. Think about it. If you know that if you fail, mom and dad will send a check, do you really need to work that hard? Do you really need to save? The authors found that children who receive regular EOC generally live in neighborhoods they can't afford, drive cars they can't afford, and have zero savings. They are income affluent, but balance sheet broke. The EOC acts like a drug. The children become dependent on the injection of cash. They never develop the frugal muscles their parents had. The parents are POs, wealthy. The children become UAWs, spenders. The subsidized lifestyle. Here's a typical scenario described in the book. A wealthy couple gives their daughter and son-in-law $40,000 a year to help with their mortgage. The daughter and son-in-law now live in an $800,000 house. They look rich. Their neighbors think they are rich, but their lifestyle consumes their entire salary, and the mortgage is paid by the parents. What happens when the parents die? Or if the parents lose their money? The children collapse. They have built a lifestyle structure on a foundation of someone else's money. The authors note that the most successful children of millionaires are the ones who receive zero EOC. They had to figure it out themselves. Because they had to struggle, they learned to budget. They learned to invest. They became POWs in their own right. The greatest gift you can give your children is not money. It is financial literacy and the necessity to stand on their own 2 feet. Lessons learned from chapters 4 and 5. Recap for the listener. 1. Stop leasing. Prestige. Leasing a luxury car is the quickest way to look rich while staying poor. If you can't pay cash for it, you can't afford it. 2. Buy quality and hold. It's okay to buy a nice car, but buy it, pay it off, and keep it for a decade. The years you spend without a car payment are the years your investment portfolio explodes. 3. EOC is dangerous. If you are a parent, be careful. Subsidizing your adult children's lifestyle weakens them. It robs them of the pride of independence. 4. Hide your wealth from your kids. The authors suggest that your kids shouldn't know you are wealthy until they are already successful adults themselves. If they grow up thinking we are rich, they will likely grow up to be lazy spenders. 5. Distinguish help from dependency. Paying for education? Good. Paying for a vacation or a car lease? Bad. Invest in their mind, not their toys. Heritage Part 4, the deep dive summary. This section covers chapters 6 and 7. We are now moving into the endgame strategies. How to handle inheritance without ruining your family, and how to pick a career that actually produces millionaires. Part 4, Chapter 6. Affirmative Action, Family Style. In the last section, we talked about economic outpatient care, giving money to adult children while you are alive. Now, in Chapter 6, we tackle the ultimate transfer of wealth, inheritance. The authors call this chapter Affirmative Action, Family Style. It addresses a very specific, painful dynamic that happens in wealthy families. Imagine a wealthy couple has 2 children. Child A is a teacher. She is responsible, frugal, lives within her means, and saves money. She is a POW, prodigious accumulator. Child B is a consultant who can't seem to hold a steady job. He has credit card debt, a flashy car he can't afford, and is constantly asking for help. He is a UAW underaccumulator. When the parents sit down to write their will, what do they usually do? Human nature kicks in. They look at child A and think, she's fine. She doesn't need our help. They look at child B and think, he needs a safety net, so they leave the bulk of the money to the failure. The authors argue this is a massive mistake, punishing success. By giving more money to the financially irresponsible child, the parents are effectively punishing the responsible child for being good. This destroys family relationships. It creates resentment. The responsible sibling looks at the irresponsible sibling and thinks, I worked hard and got nothing. He slacked off and got everything. Furthermore, it destroys the irresponsible child. If you give a massive lump sum of cash to someone who is bad with money, what happens? They don't become an investor. They become a super consumer. They blow it. The money evaporates and the family legacy dies with it. The rules of affluent parents. The book outlines several rules that successful millionaire parents follow to avoid this trap. 1. Never tell children that their parents are wealthy. Keep the cards close to the chest. 2. No matter how wealthy you are, teach your children discipline and frugality. Make them mow the lawn. 3. Stay out of your adult children's family life. Don't hold money over their heads to control them. 4. Give to your children individually. No, the authors suggest that if you want to leave money, leave it in a trust, or better yet, leave it to the grandchildren for their education. But the golden rule of Chapter 6 is simple: equitability. If you have wealth to leave it equally. Do not try to engineer your children's lives from the grave based on who needs it more. It never works. Chapter 7. Find your niche. All right, let's pivot. We've talked a lot about saving and family. Now let's talk about earning. If you are sitting there thinking, I want to be the millionaire next door, but I don't know what business to start, this chapter is for you. The authors analyze the professions of the wealthy. When we think of rich, we think of as celebrities, tech CEOs, heart surgeons. But the data shows that the millionaire next door is usually an owner of a dull, normal business. We are talking about welding contractors, auctioneers, rice farmers, pest control owners, mobile home park operators, paving contractors, because these industries are unsexy. When an industry is sexy like fashion or technology, everyone wants to be in it. Competition is fierce. Margins get crushed. When an industry is dull, like scrap metal, nobody wants to do it. If you are the best scrap metal guy in town, you have a monopoly. You can charge what you want. Following the money. However, there is another strategy the authors highlight: targeting the affluent. If you are not a millionaire yet, the best way to become one is to solve problems for those who are. The wealthy have money. They are willing to pay for expertise. The book lists specific professions that serve the wealthy effectively. Estate law. Rich people need to protect their money. Tax accounting. Rich people hate taxes. Medical specialists. Rich people will pay anything for their health. Asset management. Rich people need someone to watch their pile of gold. The lesson is to look at the affluent as a market segment. Don't try to sell cheap products to the masses where margins are low. Sell high-value services to the wealthy where margins are high. If you are a dentist, don't just be a general dentist. Be a cosmetic dentist specializing in implants for high-net-worth seniors. Specialization is the key to high income. The generalist gets paid a wage. The specialist gets paid a fortune. Lessons learned from chapters 6 and 7. Recap for the listener. 1. Don't punish success. If you are a parent, do not give more inheritance to the lazy child just because they need it. It destroys the family dynamic. Treat your children equally. 2. Silence is golden. Do not brag to your children about your wealth. If they think there is a pot of gold waiting for them, they will stop running the race. 3. Embrace the boring. When looking for a business idea, stop looking for cool. Look for necessary. Look for the dirty, difficult jobs that no one else wants to do. That is where the profit is. 4. Serve the rich. The wealthy are a recession-proof customer base. If you can build a career solving problems for PRs, prodigious accumulators of wealth, you will inevitably become one yourself. 5. Specialize. Do not be a jack of all trades. Pick a niche, become the absolute best in the world at it, and charge a premium. Part 5, Chapter 8, Choose Millionaires versus Heirs. We have arrived at the final chapter. We've covered how to spend, how to save, how to drive, and how to raise kids. Now we answer the question that has probably been nagging you since the beginning. Do I have to quit my job to become wealthy? The data in the Millionaire Next Door is very clear on this, and it might make you uncomfortable. Self-employed people are 4 times more likely to be millionaires than those who work for others. The risk-reward trade-off. The authors found that while entrepreneurs make up a small percentage of the workforce, they make up a massive percentage of the millionaire population. Why? 1. Unlimited upside. When you work for a salary, your income is capped. Even if you work 80 hours a week, you might get a 5% raise. If you own the business and work 80 hours a week, you might double your revenue. 2. Expense control. Business owners can deduct expenses. They can buy their truck through the company. They can contribute massive amounts to pre-tax retirement accounts. The tax code is written to benefit business owners, not employees. But, and this is a huge but, the authors are not telling everyone to quit their job tomorrow. They acknowledge that entrepreneurship is high risk. For every millionaire business owner, there are many who went bankrupt. The difference is the personality type. The Millionaire Next Door has a stomach for risk. They are willing to live lean for 10 years to live like a king for the next 30. The safe route. So what if you are an employee? What if you are a teacher, a middle manager, or a nurse? Are you doomed? Absolutely not. The book highlights that many PAWs, prodigious accumulators of wealth, are employees. However, the employee millionaire has to be even more disciplined than the entrepreneur. Because you cannot control your income as easily, you must aggressively control your spending. The employee millionaire is the super saver. They maximize their 401k match. They fully fund their IRAs. They live on 60% of their salary. The key takeaway from Chapter 8 is about self-reliance. Whether you own a business or hold a breadwinner, You must view yourself as Millionaire Inc. You are the CEO of your own household. If you rely entirely on your employer to make you rich through a pension or a raise, you will likely fail. You must take the capital you earn from your job and deploy it into investments that work for you. Conclusion, the final verdict. We have reached the end of our journey through the Millionaire Next Door. We started this hour with a question. Who is the typical millionaire? We now know the answer. He isn't the guy in the $3,000 suit. He isn't the guy leasing the new Range Rover. He isn't the guy flashing a Rolex at the bar. That guy is likely drowning in debt, running on a treadmill of high consumption, terrified that his paycheck might stop. The real millionaire is the guy in the Ford F-150 next to you at the traffic light. He is the guy who clips coupons. He is the guy who lives in the same house for 20 years. He is the guy who respects money enough not to waste it. The 3 pillars of wealth. If you take nothing else away from this hour, remember these 3 pillars. 1. Defense is king. It does not matter what you earn. It matters what you keep. You can be rich on $80,000 a year, and you can be broke on $500,000 a year. The difference is discipline. 2. Status is the enemy. The desire to look rich is the single biggest obstacle to becoming rich. You have to choose. Do you want to look wealthy, or do you want to be wealthy? You usually can't do both until very late in the game. 3. Slow and steady. There is no magic bullet. There is no cryptocurrency flip. There is no lottery ticket. Real wealth is built through boring, repetitive, consistent saving over decades. Your call to action. The authors, Stanley and Danko, didn't write this book to entertain you. They wrote it to change you. So here is your homework. Tonight, calculate your net worth. Use the formula, age, and income. 10. See where you stand. Then look at your driveway. Look at your closet. Look at your credit card statement. Are you buying freedom, or are you buying shackles? The Millionaire Next Door is free. He doesn't worry about layoffs. He doesn't worry about recessions. He owns his time. And with enough discipline, enough patience, and enough frugality, that could be you. Thank you for listening. Now go save some money. Final lessons learned. The recap. 1. Ownership wins. Whether it's owning a business or owning stocks, you must own assets to build wealth. Selling your time is the hardest way to get rich. 2. Adopt the Me Inc. mindset. Even if you have a boss, treat your personal finances like a corporation. Cut costs, maximize revenue, and invest the profit. 3. The formula works. Trust the math. Compound interest plus frugality equals wealth. There are no exceptions. 4. Wealth is quiet. Real money whispers. Debt screams. Don't be fooled by the noise. If you'd like the audiobook, please subscribe to my channel for more summaries. Hit the bell icon to get notifications whenever new audiobook summary is uploaded. Thank you for watching and listening.